Hello, everyone. Welcome to Angels Don't Lie. I'm your host, Jeanne Street, and I am joined here today by the beautiful Amanda Monnier. Hello, Amanda. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm amazing. So grateful to be here
So,
today with you, Jeannie.
so let me just let everybody know. Amanda is. Wait, where are you joining me from? Because you're in a different time zone.
Yeah, I'm in California, Southern California.
Okay, so good morning to you and good afternoon
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
us on the East Coast. And we have listeners from all over the world, which is great. So Amanda is a holistic healer and she has a really cool background, which we're going to get into. She's what I like to call like a divine channeler as well, because she really works with her gifts in order to lean into her clients to help them navigate some really sticky situations. So I'm not going to, go into your bio. I'm going to let you physically tell them because I think it's important to hear from your words, like who are you and what lights you up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So, yeah, I am a holistic healer. So, I'm so passionate about helping others really tune into their own healing abilities and their own gifts,
Mm,
as well as really bringing back online and activating their inner power and their passion because I just feel that it's just a beautiful time on the planet right now, and that's part of the reason we're here. It's like this journey. We've kind of thought of it as an external one, and from my experience, it's really been a journey of coming home to self,
mm.
that remembrance of who you are at that deeper level. And so it's really in my experience been about releasing all of the things that aren't you. So all the stories we've subscribed to, all of the characters we play, maybe at one point that it was the path of least resistance to keep us safe in certain situations, and releasing the emotions, the imprints, the conditionings, all the things, so that we can really access that was never lost, and that those aspects of you that are your divine essence, your innate essence, and bringing more of that online so that we can live from this beautiful space, because I
Mm.
truly don't believe that being human has to be so daunting. And I think that we're really laying
So
the
daunting.
foundation for that right now in
Yes.
this time on the planet.
When she smiles at you, she'll say, angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. No, no, angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. No, 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 no.
You touched on some really big topics that I want to dive into, but I want them to know your background because it's really fun and cool. And I think it's good for everyone to know, like it takes one starting step. Like you don't have to stay the same and you can transition your life like into a really different way.
Yeah, I believe we're constantly recreating ourselves and diving deeper into our truths. So I was, up until the last year and a half to couple years before I stepped fully into this business and my healing work, I kind of did the things that we're told to do, right? I got the college degrees and the job. I was in law enforcement for about 6 years. So I was working as a probation officer in a very masculine dominated field.
So I still can't like picture you.
I
Like
know everyone
that's
says that. Yeah.
hilarious. Okay. All right. You're a
Yeah.
little badass. All right. So
Yeah.
tell us some more.
So it was, I was in my masculine like all the time. It was how I stayed safe. It was just,
Mm.
I didn't know what it meant to be in the feminine and to be able to receive. All I knew was how to force things, how to make things happen. I was constantly in that productivity, that burnout. I would work 10-hour days. I'd be up at 5. I'd work a 10 to 12-hour day. If I didn't have overtime, I'd go work out and I'd go to sleep and do it all over again. And so there was a point in time, the catalyst of kind of my awakening and consciousness, spiritual awakening, if you will, was this painful breakup. That was the catalyst. But there was a point in time as well where it's like I had the things that we're told we are supposed to have, like the career, the pension, the
Right.
degrees, the home, all the things. And I was like, gosh, I don't even know who I am. I was so disconnected from my soul. And I was really living kind of in this cyclical autopilot patterning. And
Ooh.
it was like this big missing thing. And so,
Can we
it,
stay there for just a
yeah,
minute? Because I want to unpack
absolutely.
that a little bit, because I think I can totally recognize places in my life when I was like that as well. So what did it feel like for you when you like noticed yourself not connected? What were the key points? Like,
It was just like this thing inside me, and I couldn't even fully put it into words, but it was just this thing inside me that was like, it was like, what is this all for? What is this all
mm,
for? And I just felt like I was constantly getting like the life sucked out of me because I was really giving, and it was by choice, right? But I was giving, and I wasn't at all taking those pauses. It's like I was in that force, but I wasn't ever in the pause, and I wasn't ever really even able to receive. So I
that's
wasn't
the thing.
able to
Yeah.
receive the guidance and the wisdom and those like, the intuitive hits, because that's in the softness, when we are in those beautiful pauses and when we're really asking those deep questions and going even deeper, because usually when we think we want something, there's other layers down deeper of what it truly is that our heart and soul wants. Like, it's like,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with the physical things. I feel like we're in a physical experience, but usually if we say, oh, I just, I want um money, I want abundance of money, sometimes it's like
Right.
we go deeper, 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 and what we really want maybe is to feel loved and to feel safe, or it can
Right.
go really deep.
To have someone just like lean in and be like, you're going to be okay. Like,
Yeah.
I think as a healer, it's hard sometimes to separate, like you can't keep giving it all away, in terms of you want to always help, and no matter what career you're in, you can do it to a place of complete depletion where you feel like you're all over the floor, and you're trying to scoop yourself back up into a semblance of what is normal. But then you realize, wow, like, here I was in this position, in this job, in this family, in this role, and I don't even recognize myself anymore. I don't look the
Absolutely.
same in the mirror. I'm not feeling the same. The food I'm eating isn't the same. And so it's interesting, like when you come to that realization, and then you have to like strip yourself of what no longer works. So
Yeah.
what did that look for, like for you? Like you said, you exited a relationship. What other things kind of went?
Yeah, I exited the relationship, and then I stayed in the career for a handful of years more, because that was a couple years in, and then I was stayed for about 6 years total. So several more years, really kind of doing that more external search that a lot of us kind of start this journey off
Mhm.
with, where I was reading all the books I could get my hands on, like getting all the readings and the
Mhm.
healings, right? All
Yes,
the
yes,
things.
yes.
And what I learned through all of that is all that stuff is beautiful and great. But the main thing I did take away from that is everything I ever needed was always inside. And all that stuff can act as a beautiful enhancement, whether it be mentors we're guided to or books we're guided to. But it was still, even up until when I was working with the coach and getting my business going, it was another little sneaky way that I gave my power away. And so the like silver lining that has really been coming forward is like, well, no, like we really do know what's best for us, and then we can get some guidance along the way, and things of that nature, when it feels like a 10 out of 10 for us, when it feels like a yes, like an absolute yes. And so we can really start to use that intuition muscle and really have that connection with ourselves, and build this beautiful relationship with ourselves first. And it's not that we can't have any of the external stuff, but foundationally it's really getting to know ourselves at that deeper level, and what we're really desiring. Because one of the things that I noticed, it's like a part, like a conditioning, a pattern program, whatever you want to call it, that I subscribed to based on the childhood stuff that I went through, was everything that I was as a person was defined by my external accolades, by the career, by all the things that I was doing. And it was false. It was very false.
Right, right.
So I've just come to this new place. It's like, well, even the people I surround myself with, it's like that stuff to me is secondary. Like, who are you as a soul? Who are you as a person? And to me, that is first, when we can really connect on that level with ourselves and with others. Because I
I love
think, We want that deep down.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because it's something that's really kind of been transpiring in my own being, just due to the fact with this war in the Ukraine, with all of the energy. I mean, we had already gone through such a transition with the COVID and that experience, but this kind of witnessing an evil that we never have had, in this generation, our eyes on, is it's unbelievable. Like it's almost like daunting sometimes to think, what is my role here? What is it that I'm supposed to do? And so this morning when I was doing my rosary and my morning prayer, what came very apparent was, this is my soul. My soul is a woman who prays and gathers people and leans into healing, right? And so go back to this root of, this is what's really important. So the more we raise our vibration internally, the more we are leaning towards who we really are and what lights us up. Prayer, your relationship with God, those are the first and foremost things that are going to expand your light and your soul. And the more important thing is, this is how we're going to get into that trusting of our flow, right? The more busy we are doing and doing and doing and becoming, the less we get away from the truth and that light. And we were talking before we jumped on our call about how you we were talking about so many great things, but the trust of the flow, and you move really quickly like I do, which is hilarious. Like you're like, boom, it's all gone. But I kind of wanted to go a little bit further. Like, what does that look like about trust and flow and the release and being in a relaxed state? Like, it's hard for, I think, women who have such passion, who like know that there is a big purpose, that they have to, get up and do it all, and they want to serve and they want to help, but then they're exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's so many directions we could go with this. I feel that we definitely do live in a society that really urges and pushes that kind of hustle mentality, the production, the consumerism. And so I feel that in the pauses, and we've had almost like a forced pause in the last several years. And so I think a lot of people are really kind of asking those deeper questions, those questions of, what is it that I truly want? Who am I really, truly deep down? And so I think that even just bringing conscious awareness to these things is an initial step. And even if it feels scary, even maybe just acknowledging that it feels scary is a first step to ask these questions of like, maybe around like, is this career for me? Is this relationship for me? Am I doing the things that are lighting me up? And there's so many, I feel, components of flow. But one thing I've been kind of playing around with is not needing to know and not needing to control. Because every time I've tried to force and control, it's like I'm trying to force the universe's hand.
It's the needing to know.
Yeah.
Because
it's all tied to that needing to know, or that wanting to know.
Right. Because I mean, think about it. Like, we have instant access to information. And so to not have instant access to what your future is and, how things are going to play out, or is this my right move? Like, instead of actually living it and like feeling it in your body. Right. Yeah. And then discerning like, this feels groovy, or this doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I do believe we are conscious creators. So there's a component of that which we are always creating, whether we're creating in our unconscious or we're creating consciously. We're always manifesting. We're always creating. We're always, even if we're doing nothing, we're creating that we're doing nothing. We've manifested a day on the couch. So we're always creating. And so we can really ask ourselves, like, what is it that we truly want? And again, go deep on it. And to me, those are like those true choices. And then there are components of, well, first and foremost, I feel it's like, can we show up in the same space, in the same energy, in the present moment, in the same energetic, if that thing we think we want shows up or it doesn't? Because really the present moment is all that's available to us. So what is with conscious creation being a piece of the puzzle, it's like, well, what's showing up right now? Because when we have resistance to things that we're choosing and creating, the universe, I feel, when we've proclaimed that we want them and we've done some really intentional work around the creation of these things. And I always say this is something more expansive because I don't begin to know some of the additional things the universe can have, in store for me. And so when we have different resistances in our energy field or in our body, those things will often surface when we've set the intention for things we want, because there's can be components of the unconscious wanting to stay safe. And so it's like, well, you say you want to have this relationship, but then there's this childhood programming or this identity structure that's like, love's not safe because of what maybe you went through. For me, my parents divorced when I was 6. And so that was one of the things that I had as like a pattern and a belief, was that it wasn't safe and that I wasn't worthy and that there was, that men were going to leave me. And so that continued to show up in my relationships. And so it's like it's a multifaceted process. I feel the creation, the presencing, and then the releasing of the resistance and the healing work. So it can be all sorts of different components of that. But if we're just doing what's right in front of us, then it's like, what's showing up in this moment? Maybe it's to go be playful. Maybe there's an emotion coming up. So instead of avoiding that emotion, we can pause and let that emotion be felt, seen, heard, or whatever is really coming up in that moment that part or emotion is needing.
So I like this because the next thing I was going to ask you about is like, it's really important for us to have a release, right? To emote out, because that settles those emotional wounds.
Yeah.
And we can't heal something that we haven't felt. We can't just, of course there's pain in there, like, and you had already gone through it as a child of feeling abandoned, but stepping into a new relationship, in order for that to be full and yummy, you had to first feel the abandonment again, so that wound, that conditioning, whatever we want to call it, can move out of you. And that part of that is, there has to be an expression of it, whether it be crying, yelling, dancing, whatever. So what does that look like for you? Like,
it's been a lot of crying. It's been days where I give myself permission to sleep because my body needs sleep, especially coming from up until this last year. I was constantly doing. I was never being. I was never present.
I talk about that so much. I love that.
The majority of the time I wasn't present.
It's so important because we do get in the habit of doing. It's just because we have seen it so much in our society, like, you have to do these things to get ahead. You have to structure your business like this. And we actually, with my wonderful, wonderful team, have had some deep conversations about being very intentional with what we're putting forth and putting out and what we're going to release, because all those great business classes and trainings that I took along the way as building my business said you had to do. And I'm ready to throw all that away and just to kind of go with what my body feels in its rhythm. And that's what you're talking about. And that brings us to that relaxed state, right? That conscious state where we can have the drop-ins, where God is easily heard because our relationship with him grows, because now we're being very still. I love, you said pause. You said that pause earlier. I love that word.
Yeah. And it is being willing to let go of the things, because I had the same experience in the last year where I had been working with different coaches that were like, you must do it this way. And to me, in this journey, there's no black and white. And I always even say, like, when people are listening to my podcast episodes or anything that I'm saying, it's like, take what resonates and leave the rest, because you're going to feel in your body what is resonant for you at that particular time. And that may be one thing, that may be nothing, that may be 50 things. So, and it's your own unique personal journey. And it's like, if we are, I feel we are a unique expression of God, and we're not separate from this energy. And so if we can't get it wrong. It's really just, what do you want to
Yes.
experience? And you can take a few steps in a certain direction and be like, okay, this felt, maybe I learned a few things along the way, and then pivot back. But going back to this energy of like the pauses, I feel when we do pause, we're able to receive. We're able to receive
Yes.
information. We're able to receive those pings and
Those
nudges
yummy
from
nuggets.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we're listening. We're not in that quick, cycle to where we're just kind of like moving. We're in this energetic of surrender and openness. And sometimes what this can do, I know for me, I receive so many downloads when I'm in the shower. I think it's a combination of the water and I'm just like in silence. And it's like, maybe I know when I'm anchored in this intention of receiving and listening, it's like, I maybe just saved myself 20 steps of doing, and then I would have come to the conclusion, but it feels so much more relaxed and nicer, especially for the feminine, because I feel like we have been in this kind of masculine template, and there are a lot of inversions on this planet. And so it's caused this burnout of the feminine, and where our systems and our nervous systems have just been in like fight or flight or freeze, and our nervous
Right.
systems want to come back to center. And part of this practice for me has been an hour of meditation a day. And it doesn't even, you could start with 2 minutes, 1 minute, presencing yourself with your breath and just breathing has been, I know it sounds like we hear it a lot, but I feel like there's one thing of like knowing something and then knowing it for you. And maybe for you, it's something different. Maybe it's getting outside and grounding in nature. It can be so many different things, but learning what that is specifically for you, especially maybe it's going to change from, month to month of what your body's asking for and what your soul's asking for as well.
I hope you're soaking in all the yumminess from today's episode of Angels Don't Lie. I'll be getting back to the podcast in just a moment. I just wanted to pause here with you to make sure that you know of a free offering and labor of love that I have for you as being part of my angel community. This offer is designed especially for you as you're navigating the areas that are most painful for you. So these areas are healing from grief, working through our trauma, understanding and utilizing our gifts to the highest capacity the way God intended, and for leaning in a little further to working with our gifts, but in a God-based manner. This up level is what I'm talking about. In this offering, it's called the Angel Mediumship Third Eye Masterclass. In here, you will learn how to begin to access heaven using my God-based method. There are 6 short video lessons, and you'll understand why you're emotionally depleted and worn out. You'll recognize when your third eye is off balance, and you'll learn the tools to effectively clear it. This understanding will lead you to knowing the sensitivities and the frequencies that are around you. You'll be able to also release emotional wounds that block your ability to receive those yummy messages and visitations from your departed loved ones. Discover the joy and love in utilizing your gifts while protecting your energy. Create a soul-aligned life with your gifts from Spirit as you awaken to your purpose and shine your light confidently. Take action today of this free masterclass. The details are listed below this episode. All you need to register is an email. Now back to the episode.
I think you also touched on something that I want to circle back to, which is, giving people like the idea, like, you don't have to be, a medium, a healer, like a professional to have a practice that supports you and that where you receive that information too. We set this up with Spirit. We set up where we're going to receive. So it's when we're in the relaxed state that it's effortless, and then we repeat it and then it becomes a familiar. So like you said, in the shower is your relaxed time. You set that up with Spirit, and that's your place of being able to fully receive that flow. And look, it's water, it's flow, right? And that's the same as energy. That's how it is when we tap into that beautiful consciousness, which is divine and holy. That's just, you guys, like, it doesn't matter. You can be sitting in prayer, you can be sitting in meditation, you could be outdoors, you can be in the shower, but you have to set that scene beforehand.
Yeah, I truly believe that each and every one of us have access to this. This isn't like a special thing. I think that gurus and all of this energetic are things of like old earth. I truly, I don't believe in the hierarchical structure
Right.
of what we've kind of been told our whole lives. I just don't, I think it's nonsense, and that might not be popular opinion, but I just feel that, again, like tuning into your own knowing and your own truth and whatever
Yes.
that feels like for you. And typically, like something that has helped me, it's like, if even just practicing, if there's something that comes up and it's like within the first like second or two before the mind has a chance to take over and the programming has a chance to take over, like, is it a yes or is it a no?
Right.
And getting really clear on our yeses and our nos. And when we're saying yes and it's really a no, that also clogs up our receiving channel, because if
Yes.
we're filling our space in our life with all these things that are a no, but there are all these shoulds and ought tos and things like tied to it, it's like that is energetically draining. And then we're sending these mixed messages that we can't be in integrity with our truth because we feel like we have to say yes to all these things.
How do you get, I'm like, love this so much. This is so juicy. How do you tell your yes and your no? Like, what is your system?
So it's what I just mentioned, around like right away, like that instinctual. So if anyone here is familiar with human design, I'm a sacral generator. I'm not like super deep into human design, but like for me, it's like a gut instinct.
Right.
And then it's like if I'm feeling like I have to rationalize doing something and talk myself into it, that's also an indicator. And then I really love muscle testing too.
Yes.
So
Yep.
muscle testing is a beautiful tool. Using the body below the head is
Yep.
such a beautiful tool. And not saying that the mind is not helpful or anything. And, we can definitely harness our connection to our higher self and our third eye and all these things. But for me, with how deeply I feel things in my body, I use my body as an indicator and
Yep.
helpful, like instinctually, because we just, again, before that conscious mind, or before the programming and the, all
Yes.
the other like things where we run away with all our thoughts, and believe me, I've been a recovering people pleaser. So it's been really beautiful exercising a yes and a no, and really just, even if, like, let's say even if like some guilt or shame comes up around it, it's like I've just been really practicing, like, okay, I don't need to shame the shame, but I can feel this old energy coming up in my body, and I can
Right.
just sit with it, and it's just going to move, because emotions are, it's just moving energy, and so we don't have to hold and clench onto these old densities. So those are some of the things that I
I
use.
love that. So I say the same thing, like your body knows truth, the wisdom of your body knows. So you put your hand on your heart and on your solar plexus, and you can even like envision yourself writing the thing, whatever it is that you're working through, putting it on your body, like you said, like not letting it get up into the thought system, because this is when our ego will, or Schmigo guy will take over, that's fear and ego together, and there's your Lifetime movie. It's the worst case scenario ever. And so your body's wisdom will, this is how you can detect your true desires over the wants, right? We want money, everybody wants money, but is the body's true desire to be in that rhythm? Because maybe the money is avoiding you because wealth isn't something you are here to do. Your soul is here to do other things that are going to bring super support to the people in your family, the healing of the generational wounds, any of that. So it's kind of interesting when we just move into that rhythm.
Yeah, yeah. And it is like, if it's something that you haven't ever done, it can be, again, just this process. And maybe you're still like, I don't know. And that's okay too. That's perfect too. And then you can ask your higher self or whatever, your angels or whatever you're
Right.
connected to, your spirit guides, God, you can ask for guidance. And I truly believe when we ask and we're willing to receive, the answers and the guidance always does show up. It just might not be in the exact same way we would think it does, but it always shows up
Always.
when we're available to receive that information.
When you're working with clients and you are helping them, what does it look? Just tell me what it looks like for you.
Yeah. So one of the things that I start with is the conscious creation piece, because I always remind people you're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And so I feel that sometimes when we're just constantly going into the healing work, it's like it's another layer and another layer and another layer. And so for me, it's been so transformative and powerful to step into that true choice, and that whether it be stepping into your soul's essence or stepping into the energy of a life that you love and really envisioning that and stepping into all the possibilities of the quantum reality. Because I don't believe time is linear. So we live in this time as a human construct. So the quantum, I feel, is all of the possibilities that we could be living at any given moment, if you will. And so we can literally step into that energy and we can be it now. And then all of the healing, I feel, is kind of secondary to that, because it's going to come up, it's going to surface. So I like to call it resistance, density. It can be the beliefs, the patterning, the conditioning, the imprints, the contracts, the family history, all the things that is contained in your energy field. And so I work with the client's higher self with permission and creation of sacred space and all the things that go into setting up a session properly. But all the healing always comes from the client's higher self and their own source connection. So I'm not in their field doing any manipulation stuff. It's all guided by the client and what they're ready for. And so really creating those very clear intentions and then bringing up everything that is ready to be released in that session. So I never know how a session's going to look.
Right.
I never know, because I've come to a place to where it's something bigger coming through me. And so it is, again, I've had like sessions that turn into kind of like, because I think all timelines are stacked upon each other. So it's like we can call it a past life, but sometimes it shows up as like, a past life thing. Sometimes it shows up as an inner child healing. And sometimes it shows up as like healing a relationship with a father. It's just sometimes maybe none of that shows up, and it's just giving instructions to the higher self. Because again, if time's not linear, we can go back to an event and we can actually do what I call a change history. So when we're doing that, we're basically let's say we had a traumatic event in childhood and we weren't able to process it properly. And so we created, the world isn't safe. It's not safe to love. Everybody leaves. Maybe there's some of the like tidbits that get kind of funneled into that template, the belief, the identity. And so we can actually go back to the original event, because we want to go back to the original event, because instead of trimming off the leaves of a plant, we pull it out at the root. So we pull out whatever that root event was, and we do the change history, which is whatever that like, and it could mean spending an hour with that inner child, maybe longer, maybe there's layers, and really being there in that space. If we're talking inner child work of going through the emotions and whatever that child needed at the time to properly heal and transition. And so that can be kind of an example of what it would look like. So I feel there's components of, again, being present for what's showing up, knowing that we are conscious creators and that we can create from this place of heart and soul alignment. And then with the presence work, it allows those emotions and things, the density, to be released from the body. So we can, because we're not taking that stuff with us, because it's not you and it never was.
So it's really transformative work for like, I feel like for you as well, like as the healer. I mean, obviously I feel like that is one of the reasons we are healers, is we've come to heal some deeply embedded wounds, and our clients support that as we're supporting them, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're finding some things about your own self after sessions that is like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely, some of the things like I always say, like, you can't make this stuff up. You can't
Right.
make this stuff up. So I've come to really, I love like the word, I heard this several months ago, healing facilitator. And I love that
Mm,
energy because it's just, again, it's not like, yeah, I call myself a healer, holistic healer, but I'm really facilitating and empowering my clients because I want people to even feel to where they can, like, let's say something comes up and they don't necessarily like have to get on the phone. Like I don't really believe in, I really don't believe in those like kind of codependent relationships with, that we can even have with healers, because I've had some of those in the past. So it's really, I feel, just reminding people and holding space in a way that is transformative so that people can really step into their truth and their gifts. And maybe that just means being able to shine their light and like live from a place of authenticity, because I think it can even be, we don't have to save the world, right? So
right.
sometimes we're just of highest service when we're in our truth and light, and people can,
Yes.
like, it's like almost like the encodings in our field like trigger that remembrance in others, and we're not even doing anything but being ourselves.
I love that because it is so true. And it circles right back to what we were talking about in the beginning. When you are in your truth, when you are really identifying with peace and calm, and this is when you really get to know who you are in essence, and that is knowing God. And that's just what makes us all like glow brighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when you also receive like your right next move. Like we'll get that right next move come to us from being in that relaxed state. But when we're in the trying and the doing and the forcing, our energy's like this, it's all tight. And then we feel like we can't do anything to make a change, or like that's not a fun place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is this dispute to me, because the energy of flow, it doesn't mean that we don't take action. It
Right.
just is inspired action. And maybe it's messy action. And maybe you're like, oh, I thought this was the action step, but maybe it led you to like the next action step. And so
Right.
again, there's no right or wrong way to do this journey. We don't have a script. And one thing that has really helped me is that a lot of us that are, and if you're listening to this, I would guess you're probably kind of along the same kind of collective energetically speaking, but we're here writing the script, the new script for what we want to create, whether we want to call it New Earth or this beautiful golden age, what the transformation of this planet, because I think we can all agree that a lot of the old stuff on this planet just isn't cutting it anymore. It's very painful. It's very dense. And so we are making these transitions, and that's, I feel, why it can also feel extra uncomfortable, because there isn't clear instructions. There are not, because we're writing them. We're
Right.
creating it together.
It's kind of funny. I like that you just said that, instructions, because it's one of the things like when you have a baby, there's not necessarily an instruction book. This is not like, oh, here's your newborn and this is what's going to happen, or here you've adopted a child and there's no like books on that type of thing, because you have to experience it, you have to live it. And then, like you said, it becomes your norm, or coded or teaching or whatever. And that's how we go forth and we share our light with others, because once you have lived in that experience, then you can know what it looked like to navigate it in a really good way, or what didn't work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, and there's no one size fits all. It goes back to this conversation we were having earlier, that I actually see it a lot in the coaching and healing space. And I feel guided to mention it every now and again. It's like, you know, there's nobody here to tell you what your truth is. Like, it
Right.
goes back to that. It's not black and white. And there was this story one of my friends was telling me of one of her clients that was working with this healer, and it didn't feel aligned for her anymore. And so she was being, in such a beautiful way, just honest about how it didn't feel aligned. And this healer was like, well, you're self-sabotaging, just throwing it back at her in this really kind of nasty way. And to me, it's like that, if that, and I know that happens a lot because it's happened to me, to where it's like, if you're not ready to sign up for some 20K program, then,
Right.
you're not worthy of the healing work because you're not willing to put in the money. That's false. It's all nonsense.
It really is. And I agree with you. We have a responsibility to our soul to really lean into whoever we're going to work with, to make sure that they are aligned to the belief system we are. So that's your you work. That's the stuff you have to do before you sign up. You got to do that kind of research. And though somebody might present themselves to be high and seem all loving, go in and get clients that ask for can't think of the word I want to use here, references. There it is. Do your research, because it's important. It's your energy, and it can get really like stompled on. I had some really negative readings way back in the day, and they were so yicky. So it's really, and for healers, it's also a responsibility that you're doing your own work to continually grow and evolve and stay really true to what we're here for, which is not to tell someone what to do, but to lean into, maybe this can navigate you. These are the things that spirit is showing me. These are the things the angels or God, right. This is what your departed loved ones are saying. Like, yeah.
Well, I believe it circles back to this conversation we're having about intuition, because it's like you always know. And then again, like it can either be the mind or like an external source that is trying to kind of, maybe it's their ego, right? In their stuff, which isn't your responsibility. And so when we really deepen this relationship with ourselves, the way I like to explain it, it's like when we're sourcing from our own source connection first. And in general, instead of like plugging into others in this way where we're trying to like get all this, information. I fell into a little trap and period of time where I was getting readings all the time because I was kind of avoiding going deeper with some of these emotions that were coming up. And I just wanted to know the ending to the story there were some painful things that happened last year. I had been dating this guy, and there were all kinds of like things that he was saying, and little promises and whatnot, and then he just disappeared. And I've come to understand this relationship was painful, but it was a gift, because I was able to really go deep on some of these things. It brought up a lot of stuff, but there was a period of time where I was getting readings, and 0 of the readings ended up being true, first of all. And it was just a way that I kind of avoided being present with the emotions that were coming up, because I was reaching into the future. Well, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Well, wait, hold on a second. If we are, again, the creator of our reality, and if we are being true to ourselves and what we need first, it's like, well, him coming back would just put a Band-Aid on this anyway, because there's something bigger here. And so sometimes it can be painful to acknowledge these parts coming up. But if it's like a painful part, a painful story, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to let it go, so we don't have to carry it around anymore. It's like this, these dark night of the soul, these bouts of density that come up are just those layers of things that just don't serve us any longer. And so it allows us to meet with ourselves more deeply, rather than outsourcing and looking for something to put a Band-Aid on it. And I truly feel with where we are at this time on the planet, it's happening at rapid speed. Like all of my closest friends right now are all going through something just so like, they're like, life as they knew it is like blowing up. And so I feel that it's like what life is doing is really giving us the opportunity to meet ourselves at a deeper level. But that means a lot of these other things are falling away and being forced out of our lives. Yeah.
So it goes back to what I've talked to, my people on my podcast and my students about, which is, this is the age of the healer, right? This new earth, whatever we want to call it. The age of the healer means that what isn't based in love can no longer survive because it's not meant to expand your soul. So that's what we're seeing, all of that blow up energy. And, you know, one of the other things that I love that you touched on, and it's something I teach in my program, which is as a responsibility as someone, because you have gifts and you have the ability to channel, doesn't mean that you're meant to deliver it all. There's a discernment. And we can force our energy to go in somebody else's field and then get predictive type of energy. But that is not a God-based reading. That is an egotistical reading. So you have to go into the energy of the divine. So I teach how to do that in order to receive the highest and best for that person. It's never prediction. It's never you should or you have to, because what that is taking away somebody's free will. And God has given us this free will for a very important reason, so that we can grow. And, you know, like you said, maybe that wasn't a great choice, but that choice still led you to the next right move. And that next right thing led you to this other thing. And it's all about experiences. And that's how your soul grows. That's what we're meant to do here. We're not meant to be stagnant and get, like, you know, stuck. We're meant to easily go through things and not get desperate, so to speak. When we're desperate, that's when we know we really have to turn on God. We have to turn right back to him and be like, all right, I'm feeling desperate. This doesn't feel good. And then our answers will come.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it just circles back even to this conversation of presence. And it's been one of the most beautiful things in my life, because it's like, I feel that we do hear this often, like, just be present, be in the now, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like a thing that, you know, a lot of people say, but when you really get to experience it and the oneness of the now, there've been times when I've been in meditation to where I've just been so connected that I can't even describe or put words to this frequency, because it's just so, it's like nothingness, but everything at the same time.
So this has been like such, I think, an enlightening conversation. And I just feel like there's so many yummy nuggets people could take away. Maybe we could circle back to our favorite yummy nuggets. I think that would be kind of fun. What are your biggest takeaways so far?
I like I had mentioned kind of before we hopped on here, I have just been playing around with this not needing to force and not needing to control and not needing to know, and also being okay when those parts come up, because I think part of the process is just acknowledging and having that awareness and not judging those parts of us. And if we do judge it, that's okay too, as well. Like, we don't, everything can, there's so many like things that are so hard on us. Like, we can just give ourselves like a little bit of grace and be very like gentle with ourselves, because there's
just a little grace.
Yeah, just a little or a lot, either way.
I know. Take the nap.
Yeah. And I just have experienced this in my life. And if you don't mind, I can share like a little short story on how this is, how, like, when I've released, things have shown up.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. So I was in a business partnership last year, and I'm going to give the condensed version because this is over like kind of a 6-month period. And I had mentioned that thing that happened with the dating relationship I was in. And so it was just a lot of dense emotions that I was moving through. And I didn't know consciously that this business relationship was part of where I was saying yes, but my yes was really a no, and it wasn't aligned for me anymore. And so when I realized this, it was a painful process, and it wasn't, I did my best to show up in a loving way and in my truth. And I released this relationship. There were a lot that went with it too. We had been working on like a retreat. So I was guided to release that. I was guided to release a book project. So I was just guided to let it all go and do like a hard reset on my business, my podcast. And I was guided to literally start from scratch. And so I did it. And I knew in my soul that this was like an absolute 10 out of 10 yes, as though it was very also kind of like, okay, well, I just spent the last almost year building this, like, but okay, God, I'm going for it. And just ever since I was a little girl, like I just known that this beautiful like love relationship was meant for me. And it's just been part of the process through my awakening is unraveling all the resistances and all the things that I've told myself I'm not worthy of it, all these things. So it's so interesting because within a week after releasing this relationship, I live in Southern California and my sister's bridal shower was in Northern California. It already had to be rescheduled because the previous date, others were sick and I wasn't planning on going. And so I got the call from my mom after I released this relationship. The same weekend that the bridal shower, I was supposed to be in Sedona for this retreat. And so I released all of that. I now had a free weekend. I was feeling so good. Like it was just such a beautiful, like weight had been lifted. I was like, okay, I'm following the soul nudges, even though it's a little scary, I'm doing it. And so I ended up saying yes to driving up for the weekend to go to my sister-in-law's bridal shower. And that same weekend, I had been nudged back in several weeks prior to that, maybe 3 to 4 weeks, to start dating again because I had taken about 7 or so months off dating. I was guided just like hard no for any dating. And even I got to this place of such peace to where when I was feeling those nudges to get back, like I have played around on the dating apps and I was like, oh no, but I'm in such peace, like in harmony with myself. Like I'm loving this, but I can't, for like 2 weeks straight, it was just like this nudge from the universe, like get back on the dating apps. And I was like, okay. And so the first like couple weeks, I canceled more dates than I went on because I was just really, really had that clarity on my yeses and my nos. And that same weekend, when I went back to Northern California, I reconnected through the dating app with this man that I had worked with 12 years ago. And
Wow. 12 years?
yes. And he had actually reached out last summer and I just didn't, it was like kind of, I don't know, like I was like, oh yeah, I moved and all these things. And he was like, well, would you be open to having dinner with me before you leave? I know you're kind of busy. And there was just something in my heart and soul that was just like, I didn't even have to think about it. It was just an absolute yes for me. And I was like, I'll figure out, like I had time on the evening before I left the next day, the most beautiful date I have ever been on. And the most beautiful man I have ever met. Like just, I can't even put words to it because he's just, it's the
And you
most
already
peaceful.
knew him, right?
Yeah. And I already knew him. So it was different because I wouldn't have gone on any dates with anybody else. At least I don't think I would have because I don't live in Northern California. But I went on this date and he's already come to visit me. I've gone to visit him again. I'm going back up for my brother's wedding this weekend. And it's just been the most harmonious, beautiful relationship, just with so much ease and flow and love. It's just, and if I hadn't followed those soul nudges and if I hadn't clearly honored my yes and my no, then I don't know, especially in this particular time, we would not have reconnected. And the whole trajectory of everything would have been different. I don't know where I would be in this moment. And maybe later down the line, we would have reconnected. But when we honor our truth, it's like it opens up the possibilities of the universe in this magnificent, beautiful way. It's just like, okay, universe, I see. It can really be this easy. And so that's where I like love the illustration of how simple it can be. Cause I literally didn't have to do anything but honor my truth and follow like the 10 out of 10 yes nudges. So
I love that. I feel that's so yummy in so many ways. Like one of the things I talked about when I first opened up to my gifts and just allowed them and I followed those nudges. I used the same word. I love that. So I just felt like they kept nudging me and nudging me and nudging me. And one move led me here. Everything that I followed felt so divine and nothing I could have done or thought of here, because in my own mindset, you would have too much fear around it. Like walking away from a business partnership, I'm sure that being a sensitive person that you are, feeling very deeply, it was really hard to separate her feelings or his feelings, whatever that partnership was, from your own. And then to stand in the truth of like, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe.
yeah.
You're
yeah,
like, I'm
there
doing
were
this.
those feelings for sure.
And to do it and to feel like you're doing it from the vibration of love as well. Like that's the other thing, like just because it feels safe for you, you also want to make sure you're not just like cutting a cord or burning bridges, like that. To me, that's always been like gentle. Like you just can't just walk away. You have to do your work at the same time to be
Yeah.
respectful. And
Yeah. And I will say that like I did do that, and it was received beautifully initially, but then I don't know, it definitely like later on wasn't. And so I just got to the place to where I was like, I can't, I have to be, well, I don't have to be okay with it, but I worked through my emotions with it that came up. And then I
Right.
was like, I can't control this person's perception of what's going on. So it's just
Right.
another piece of honoring ourselves. And when we do show up with love, like it can be really well received. But if the other person is in their wounding, or maybe there's a lesson there for both of us, or who really knows exactly how it's going to unfold when we're moving through something like this, because I didn't see it unfolding that way, but it was part of me learning, because in the past I would have stuffed my feelings and I wouldn't have said anything. And so it's this
Right.
practice of honoring ourselves in a loving way, and then having those like sacred boundaries on what we choose and what we're willing to accept or not accept.
I love sacred boundaries that aren't walls, that aren't separating you, that are a willingness to receive energy. And even if you need a little time to process, even if it's too much in the moment, and you're able to back out of the conversation, just to have that sacred boundary to fill your cup back up with some semblance of love. Maybe it's going for a walk in nature, whatever. We'll circle right back to that yumminess where you're with spirit, where you're with God, where you're with source energy, meditation, wherever that is, that you fill back up before you speak again or make an action move.
Yeah, it is a beautiful reminder, because when we're responding and when we're reacting out of any like pain that has come up, for me, I've just tried to be very conscious about that. And so there was a period of time, I think it was a week, where I processed before I knew what my truth was, and then I could speak it in a loving way. So it is a beautiful reminder, because typically when we're reacting, it's like we see people fighting all the time, right? It's like a battle of the unconscious, a battle of the triggers and the egos. So sometimes pulling ourselves out so we can move through what's coming up for us and gain clarity on what's really true.
Yeah, it would be kind of interesting, like if you could see the wounded self instead of the person that's speaking to you, and like they could see your wounded self, you'd stop and you'd realize like, okay, this is just that you have these pain points that this is touching on. And we would remember compassion so much more easily if we could do that, if we could see each other through the lens of love.
Yeah. One thing that helps me too is seeing, the person, because oftentimes it's their own inner child wounding a lot of times. And so even seeing them as a child sometimes is helpful to kind of soften a little bit, because I feel that this energy of softening is so beautiful, because we put on those like layers and those things to keep ourselves safe from the hurts that we've experienced and the perception of things that have been painful. And so I completely understand, but it also cuts ourselves off. And I've experienced this, it cuts us off from the beautifulness of being able to be vulnerable and honest and open and expressive. And so that's, again, practicing for me. It's been a practice getting into this beautiful feminine
and
energy.
Feeling safe to do
Yeah.
so. Because I think that's one of the things that stops most people, is there's a sense that that you're not going to be okay.
Yeah.
That you don't have what you need around you, right?
Yeah. And it can sometimes be helpful to tune into that energy. And for me, sometimes I'll be like, okay, where am I holding this in my body? And was this mine? Was this something that was passed down like a family thing? Or maybe I don't need to know. Maybe I just need to honor it for a moment.
Honor it, right? Yeah. So one more time, 231-444-4480. And then we're going to be saying goodbye. This has been such a good, yummy talk. I know somebody was trying to call in. We did have, I think it was Karina. I think she was saying she was on her walk. But this has been so lovely to get to know you better and have this really amazing conversation. I know so many people are going to take some of the yummy nuggets, what they need right away from here.
Yeah, I've
Why
absolutely
don't
loved it.
why don't you tell people like how they can find you and all of that?
Yeah, so my website is just my name, Amanda Monnier, and then I do have Facebook. I'm more active on Instagram, so that's also just my name, Amanda Monnier, and those are the two primary places
And
that
we're going to
you
put
can
all
find
of that information in the show notes for you guys. And for those of you that are interested, we're going to also add in a really lovely meditation that you have. And can you tell us about that meditation?
Yeah, it's the inner freedom and sovereignty. So it's kind of a combination of a meditation and the energy work, the recode work that I do. So
Nice.
it's a little bit of both. And yeah, so you can download that freebie from my website if you
I'm
feel guided
really,
to
really excited about
download
that.
that
So
one. Yeah.
we'll have that in the show notes for you guys too. So you can get to have that special, I feel like treatment. I feel like that's a special treatment that you're offering. Well, thank you again for joining. And I know what I know because angels don't lie. I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful, blessed day.
Thank you, Jeannie. You too.
Thanks, Amanda. Bye.
You'll never worry